Pokemon Legends ZA. We've been teased some familiar places like the Kalos region and what looks like France's Eiffel Tower, symbolized by what appears to be the Lumio City Tower, the City of Light. And as we know, within the brightest of lights, there is always cast the darkest of shadows. King AZ, a mysterious man from legend walking the world of Kalos eternally. His origins and past have been given up to myth and legend, but they are whispered still to this very day as follows. A long time ago, there was a man and a Pokemon who both loved each other dearly. However, an age of war had begun, and the man's Pokemon was forcibly taken to fight at the battlefield. Several years later, the man's Pokemon was returned to him in a tiny coffin, having died in battle. The man, in his desperation to bring his beloved Pokemon back regardless of the cost, constructed a machine which restored his Pokemon back to life, granting it immortality. However, the man had suffered too much and was still enraged at the world that had hurt the Pokemon he loved so very much. Blinded by vengeance, he turned the machine he had built into the ultimate weapon. With it, he became a bringer of destruction who ended the war by wiping out both sides of the conflict. Floette, the resurrected Pokemon, had learned that the lives of the many Pokemon were taken to restore its life, and thus chose to leave this man's side. This same man, also granted immortality by his creation, now wanders eternally, seeking a life beyond that of a war-torn past, and desperately trying to find his Pokemon. Now the legends may be as they are, but over 3,000 years, AZ would wander the lands. The Kalos Wars AZ took part in themselves are a mystery as well, but of course, with what little lore we've been gifted from the games, we can piece together succinctly that it was sparked inadvertently by the genius of King AZ. The man had brought ideas into reality that were vastly ahead of his time, allowing advancements beyond the common citizen's wildest dreams. But this same technological progress he had brought into the world, sadly, it divided the people he sought to lead to a new age. Simply put, it created groups of people who had and groups of people that didn't have. The division was so great, even members of his family, AZ's younger brother, felt the need to put together a legion of greedy folk who would seek to depose King AZ and take the absolute power of the monarchy as well as the power over this new technology entirely for themselves. And so, his brother, amassing a force of might to a point it created an entirely new nation, ignited the flames of war. And those flames they burned so greatly, so entirely, that eventually AZ, sometime in the war, had to send out his precious partnered Pokemon Floette into battle, only to later realize it had died as a casualty of war. Now look, anybody can be driven past over the edge, and in a time of war, AZ had tried his best, but this was too much. Stricken with grief at the loss of Floette, AZ created a device that could harness the power of life and destruction. In a cataclysmic display of divine power released from Xerneas and/or Yveltal depending on what version we play, the device resurrected Floette, whilst simultaneously wiping out countless others. The War of Kalos was over as the ultimate weapon had not only completely wiped out the opposition, but also demolished the defense. The firing of the ultimate weapon had left the world of Kalos scarred, but also liberated. A silver lining, relatives of AZ would continue the family line for generations using the ultimate weapon as a power source. And AZ? Well, King AZ chose to disappear. The ultimate weapon had revived his Floette, granting it immortality. However, due to the many lives siphoned away and destroyed, Floette left AZ, feeling deeply wounded and disgusted. Consequently, the ultimate weapon's firing had also granted King AZ immortality and altered his body drastically, causing him to grow 9 foot tall. Over the course of generations, his body would deteriorate, but only faintly as the ages passed and 3 entire thousand years would pass. The die had been cast, and as with each step King AZ took, his relatives also took in stride. His brother, claiming the mantle of leadership, had survived the ruination of the ultimate weapon, sealing it away beneath where Geosenge Town would be founded. Over the years, AZ's brother would focus on building a better world and safeguard the secret location of the ultimate weapon across his royal lineage, as the true king of Kalos, AZ, vanished, wandering across the world as an immortal vagrant. King AZ would search his soul to find meaning and would encounter many various events in history, chronicling them, and we, the players, would experience them tucked away in hidden gems of text and lore within the various games. One such gem is the ancient legend of the great battle between the Omega, the Alpha, and the Delta. Tales passed down by the Draconid tribe of Zinnia spoke of a tall man who saw the great battles of Kyogre and Groudon, how the Delta Pokemon Rayquaza, born of the great disturbances in this world, would calm the rage and quell the storms between these two legendary Pokemon. Some many years down the line, Lysandre, a direct descendant of the family line to the brother of King AZ, would appear. His line was pure enough to believe in a better world with the ancient technology AZ had left behind, but Lysandre, his mind became twisted. He found and imprisoned King AZ, seeking to gain any information he could on the ultimate weapon. Lysandre believed that only gods could fire the ultimate weapon, as the ideology AZ's brother had passed down the lineage, unquote. The weapon was something to be used by sophisticated powers, not humans, end quote. Lysandre took this ideology and subsequently developed a god complex. He wanted the perfect, beautiful world, and believed he would have to destroy everything to begin again. Only this time, the world would be rebuilt by Lysandre's design. If not for the player character's intervention, the ultimate weapon would have destroyed everything. Now, we can go further into talking about Lysandre separately in a different video, because I want to take a moment to talk about the Darkest Day, Galar, and its theorized relevance with the period in which the Kalos War had started, AZ's ultimate weapon was fired, and how AZ's brother and the rival nation he had built was utterly ravaged, but somehow survived nonetheless. Now this is just an idea, if not pure supposition, so hear me out. What if, when the Kalos War began, King AZ's brother built a rival nation, the Galar region? Then, with the economic might of a nation, he waged war against King AZ, settling in for what was planned to be a long, atrocious, and protracted conflict. Following this, subsequently King AZ was cornered, and at some point, perhaps it was that he sensed the intent of his brother for a protracted conflict, and so in a battle of sorts, King AZ's Floette left to fight what it hoped would be a decisive battle, but died as a casualty of war instead. King AZ, stricken with grief, built his device to resurrect his Floette with the divine energy of Yveltal and or Xerneas, the mega energy aka infinity energy emanating from them, and blinded by his rage at the loss as well as his pain, he used this power to also strike back in vengeance at his brother and the people whomst hurt the Pokemon he loved and treasured dearly. Then, upon these actions, his Floette revived and immortal, felt disgusted or gravely disheartened to see King AZ losing himself to his darkest feelings, left. And AZ, now immortal and 9 foot tall, watched Floette leave as a tremendous ball of mega energy blasted from the towering ultimate weapon. This ball of mega energy from Yveltal and or Xerneas would enter the atmosphere before falling at its intended target, AZ's brother, and the entire Galar region, but the legendary Pokemon Calyrex, said to glow a mysterious blue hue of pure and stable Dynamax energy, along with a few other legendary Pokemon assisting Calyrex, intercepted this giant ball of mega energy. Together, these legendary Pokemon alongside Calyrex would siphon this amassed unstable ball of infinity energy and or mega energy and release it as unstable Dynamax energy back down toward the earthen floors of the Galar region. The collateral damage, though still disastrous toward the region and her people, was no longer Armageddon at the very least. People survived, the region could rebuild, and the king's brother was saved. Who knows, maybe Calyrex served alongside the king's brother. But one thing's for sure. This day in Galar's history would be marked as the darkest day. Galar's monarchy would learn from this and seek a brighter future. And they did. Red, unrefined Dynamax energy would become mainstream, and Galar and her peoples would enter their own age of prosperity. But of course, all of that is just my own interpretation of these events and how they fit into the regions and the kings together, the Kalos-Galar wars, as well as AZ, his brother and the ultimate weapon. Take it all with a grain of salt, disagree with it if you like, it's just one of my many different ideas that could have been. But look, moving on and back to the man, the myth, the legend, King AZ, this man, though changed and altered by the divine infinity energy released from the ultimate weapon, though he was immortal, he had lost what felt like most of his soul to the Kalos Wars. Across 3,000 years, he searched his soul, made his various historical accounts, but did he ever truly find the redemption that would ignite his soul again? Well, in what is the 18th and final episode of Pokemon Generations, a great parade marches through Kalos as a new champion is crowned. It's then that a towering giant, the ancient King AZ, is seen amongst the crowd as he steps forth, challenging the champion with the sole purpose of finding out what a Pokemon trainer is. The intent behind this question clearly shows the state of being AZ has been in throughout his entire 3 millennia pilgrimage across the world in search of Floette, redemption, and soul-searching after the horrors of the war that had left his heart in pieces. Regardless, after holding his own with the champion brilliantly but finding defeat, the king acknowledged the champion's valor and sees the wonder of being a trainer, the connection between people and Pokemon, and it's here and then that Floette returns after 3,000 years to forgive King AZ. 3 entire thousand years of pain, wandering and searching. AZ had finally reunited with his long-lost partnered Pokemon. Together united as trainer and Pokemon, they could wander the world and adventure together free from the strife and woe of the Kalos Wars and political antics and the infighting amongst the royal family. And there you have it, folks. The brief yet voluminous story of King AZ, a character greatly implied to return or to be made mention of within Pokemon Legends ZA. Who really knows how ZA is going to look, but I for one am very excited for it to release in 2025. Personally, I have a great hope that we do see AZ return and that there's more lore shared and or revealed, or that there's just a passing mention to King AZ. But of course, only time will tell. If you liked this video and want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and share your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, be sure to join our Discord server and take the theorizing further, and follow me on Twitch for live streams. I stream Pokemon and other variety content quite frequently. Anyway, it's been a real treat, thinkers. Have a big-brained, thonky day, and be sure to think safe out there. Bye-bye!